dog.
Everyone loves Keanu Reeves. That's not unusual. What's unusual is how difficult it is to find someone who doesn't. In an industry that turns heroes into villains almost every year, Keanu Reeves somehow became the one celebrity the internet refuses to hate. And the strangest part, it has very little to do with his movies, because long before he became Neo, long before he became John Wick, long before he became one of the most recognizable people on Earth, Keanu Reeves was just a kid trying to survive a life that never seemed to stay still. And once you understand where he came from, you'll start to understand why millions of people respect him today. Most Hollywood stories begin with ambition, a young dreamer, a perfect opportunity, a lucky break. Keanu's story feels different, because for a long time, success wasn't the goal, stability was. Keanu Charles Reeves was born on September 2, 1964, in Beirut, Lebanon. His mother worked as a costume designer and performer. His father left the family when Keanu was still very young. That departure would shape much of his childhood, because after that, life became a constant series of changes. New cities, new schools, new environments, again and again. By the time he reached his teenage years, Keanu had attended several schools, and every move forced him to start over. New classmates, new teachers, new expectations. Most people struggle with change. Imagine growing up surrounded by it, and school wasn't easy either. Keanu struggled with dyslexia. Reading and traditional learning methods often felt more difficult for him than they did for other students. That challenge affected his confidence. It affected his academic performance. And it sometimes made him feel disconnected from the people around him. But something interesting happened. While school felt difficult, sports didn't, especially hockey. For a period of time, hockey became a huge part of his life. He wasn't just playing for fun. He was genuinely talented. Some people even believed he could pursue the sport professionally. His teammates gave him a nickname, The Wall, because he played goalie, and because stopping people seemed to come naturally to him. For a while, hockey looked like the future. Hollywood didn't. Movies didn't. Fame didn't. The future looked like ice rinks and hockey gear, but life had different plans. An injury eventually changed that path, and suddenly the future became much less clear. Sometimes the biggest turning points don't feel important when they happen. They only become important years later. This was one of those moments. Because without that change, there's a good chance the world never would have known Keanu Reeves the actor. As hockey faded from the picture, another interest slowly started growing: acting. Not because he wanted attention, not because he wanted fame, because he enjoyed it. That's an important distinction. Many future celebrities chase fame. Keanu seemed more interested in the craft itself. Little by little, acting became a bigger part of his life. Small opportunities appeared, then more opportunities appeared, then even more. The momentum was building, even if nobody realized it yet. By the mid-1980s, Keanu had started appearing in television projects and smaller films. Nothing world-changing, nothing legendary. Just steady work, and for a young actor, steady work matters, because every role teaches something, every project builds experience, every failure builds resilience. Most audiences never see that part. They see the success, they see the finished product, they don't see the years spent trying to earn an opportunity. Keanu spent those years learning, improving, growing, and quietly building a career. Then came larger roles, more visibility, more attention, and suddenly Hollywood started noticing him. But even as his profile grew, something remained unchanged: his personality. That's one of the most fascinating things about Keanu Reeves, because many people change dramatically when success arrives. Money changes them, attention changes them, status changes them. Keanu seemed to move in the opposite direction. The bigger his career became, the more normal he appeared. And that's not something people notice immediately. It becomes obvious over time. Years pass, success grows, fame increases, yet the person remains surprisingly similar. That consistency would eventually become one of the biggest reasons people connected with him. But before the world fell in love with Keanu Reeves, before the internet crowned him Hollywood's nicest celebrity, before John Wick, before The Matrix, before global fame, there was still one thing left to prove: could he actually become a star? Because Hollywood had noticed him, but the rest of the world hadn't. Not yet. That was about to change. And when it did, Keanu Reeves' life would never be the same again. When most people become famous, something changes. Sometimes it's their attitude, sometimes it's their priorities, sometimes it's the way they treat other people. For many celebrities, fame becomes a turning point. For Keanu Reeves, it became a test, and somehow he passed it. By the late 1980s, Keanu was no longer fighting for every opportunity. Hollywood had started paying attention. Directors knew who he was, producers knew who he was, audiences were beginning to recognize him, but recognition isn't the same as stardom. Many actors get noticed, very few become icons. Keanu was about to find out which category he belonged to. One of his earliest breakthroughs came with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. The movie became a surprise success. Audiences loved it. The character became memorable, and suddenly people weren't just seeing Keanu as another young actor, they were seeing potential. Real potential. Then came another turning point, Point Break. Released in 1991, the film paired Keanu Reeves with Patrick Swayze. The movie mixed action, crime, and surfing culture in a way audiences hadn't seen before, and Keanu's career kept moving upward, but the biggest leap was still ahead. Because in 1994, a movie called Speed arrived, and everything changed. The premise sounded simple: a city bus, a hidden bomb, one rule: if the bus slowed below 50 miles per hour, it would explode. Audiences loved it. The movie became a massive success. Keanu Reeves became a household name. Suddenly, he wasn't just a rising actor, he was a star, a genuine Hollywood star. The kind of star studios build franchises around, the kind of star magazines put on covers, the kind of star millions of people recognize instantly. And this is where many celebrity stories begin changing, because success creates temptation, the temptation to believe your own hype, the temptation to think you're more important than everyone else. The temptation to forget where you came from. Hollywood has seen it happen countless times, but something unusual happened with Keanu. Nothing changed, at least not in the way people expected. People who worked with him kept describing the same person: polite, respectful, professional, easy to work with, no dramatic stories, no giant ego, no constant controversy, just a guy doing his job. And that reputation kept following him, year after year, movie after movie. But then came the role that changed everything, a role that could have destroyed his career, or turned him into a legend. That role was Neo. When The Matrix entered production, nobody knew it would become one of the most influential science fiction films ever made. Today, that's hard to imagine. But at the time, it was a huge risk. The story was unusual, the visual style was different, the concepts were ambitious, nothing was guaranteed. But when the movie released in 1999, audiences were stunned. The action felt revolutionary, the visuals felt revolutionary, the story felt revolutionary, and Keanu Reeves became the face of it all. Neo wasn't just another character, he became a cultural icon. People copied the clothes, people quoted the dialogue, people debated the meaning, and Keanu's popularity exploded again. Now he wasn't just a movie star, he was one of the most recognizable actors on the planet. Think about that for a second. Millions of people knew his face, millions of people knew his name. Millions of people associated him with one of the biggest films ever made. Most people would struggle to stay grounded under that pressure. Many celebrities don't, because fame changes your reality. People stop saying no, people start treating you differently, doors open automatically, problems disappear, and after enough years, some stars begin believing they're untouchable. Keanu never seemed interested in that version of success. One story became particularly famous. During the Matrix era, reports emerged that Keanu had shared a significant portion of his earnings with special effects and costume teams. Different versions of the story exist online, and some details are disputed, but what isn't disputed is the reputation behind it. People consistently described him as someone who appreciated the crew. Not just the stars, the crew, the people behind the scenes, and that's important, because movies aren't made by actors alone. They're built by hundreds of people: camera operators, editors, designers, technicians, stunt performers. Most audiences never learn their names. Keanu seemed to understand their value, and people noticed. Then something even stranger happened. The bigger his success became, the less interested he seemed in showing it off. Many celebrities buy attention. Keanu appeared to avoid it. Many celebrities want everyone watching them. Keanu often seemed happiest when nobody was, and that contrast fascinated people, because it felt rare, very rare. Hollywood is full of people trying to become famous. Keanu Reeves became famous, then spent decades acting like it wasn't the most important thing in the world. That attitude created something money can't buy: respect, not fan admiration, respect, the deeper kind. The kind that lasts, the kind that grows stronger over time. And that's why Keanu's story became different from other celebrity stories. People didn't just admire his success. They admired the way he handled it, because success reveals character, and the more successful Keanu became, the more people seemed to like what they saw. But while the world was celebrating his rise, something else was happening behind the scenes, something far more important, because just as Keanu Reeves reached the highest point of his career, life was preparing to test him in ways nobody could have imagined, and those experiences would change everything. From the outside, Keanu Reeves had everything: fame, money, success, respect. The kind of career most actors spend their entire lives chasing. But behind the scenes, his life looked very different, because while the world saw a rising superstar, Keanu was carrying pain most people could barely imagine, and this part of his story explains a lot about the man people know today. The truth is that success doesn't protect anyone from tragedy. Money doesn't stop heartbreak, fame doesn't stop grief, and Keanu Reeves learned that lesson the hardest way possible. By the late 1990s, things seemed to be falling into place. His career was thriving, the Matrix had become a global phenomenon, his future looked brighter than ever, and his personal life appeared to be moving forward too. Keanu and his partner, Jennifer Syme, were expecting a child together. For the first time in a long time, life seemed hopeful, exciting, full of possibilities. Then everything changed. In 1999, their daughter was stillborn. The loss devastated both of them. No parent expects to experience something like that. No amount of success prepares you for it. No amount of money makes it easier. The tragedy shook their world, and according to reports, the grief placed enormous strain on their relationship. Eventually, the couple separated. For many people, that would have been the hardest moment of their lives. For Keanu, it wasn't the last. Less than 2 years later, another tragedy struck. Jennifer Syme died in a car accident. Just like that, she was gone. Within a relatively short period of time, Keanu had lost both his daughter and the woman he loved. It's difficult to imagine the emotional weight of something like that. Most people never experience loss on that scale, and those who do often spend years trying to recover. Some never fully recover at all. That's why this part of Keanu's story matters. Because many people look at him today and see a successful actor. What they don't always see is the pain behind the smile, the experiences behind the kindness, the losses behind the humility. Those tragedies didn't simply disappear, they became part of him, and according to people who know him, they changed the way he viewed life. Suddenly, success looked different, fame looked different. Money looked different. When you've experienced profound loss, many things stop feeling important. Petty drama stops feeling important. Status stops feeling important. Ego stops feeling important. And maybe that's one reason Keanu always seemed grounded, because life had already reminded him what truly matters. But the tragedies didn't end there. Over the years, Keanu experienced additional losses among friends and people close to him. Each one added another layer to the story, another reminder that life can change without warning. Another reminder that nothing is guaranteed, and instead of turning bitter, Keanu appeared to become more compassionate. That's what fascinates people, because suffering affects everyone differently. Some people become angry, some become resentful, some become withdrawn. Keanu seemed to become more empathetic, more understanding, more patient, and audiences noticed. Especially when stories about his kindness started appearing online, because suddenly those stories felt different. They weren't just stories about a nice celebrity. They were stories about someone who understood pain, someone who knew what loss felt like, someone who understood that every person you meet might be carrying struggles you can't see. That perspective changes the way people treat others, and many fans believe it changed Keanu too. Of course, nobody can truly know what's happening inside another person's mind. Only Keanu knows exactly how those experiences affected him, but what we do know is this. For decades, people who worked with him continued describing the same qualities: kindness, respect, humility. Generosity, those words kept appearing again and again, and eventually people started asking a question. How does someone go through so much and still remain that way? The answer might be resilience. Not the movie version of resilience, the real version, the quiet version, the version where you keep moving forward even when life gives you every reason not to. That's what makes Keanu's story powerful. Not that he suffered. Many people suffer. Not that he became successful. Many people become successful. It's that he experienced both at the same time and somehow managed to remain himself. That's rare, very rare. And perhaps that's why so many people connect with him, because his story reminds us of something important. Pain doesn't automatically make people stronger, but sometimes it teaches them what's worth holding on to. For Keanu Reeves, that might have been kindness, that might have been compassion, that might have been gratitude, and those qualities would eventually become a huge reason the internet fell in love with him, because while Keanu was quietly rebuilding his life, the world was about to discover a side of him that had nothing to do with acting, and once that happened, his reputation would grow far beyond Hollywood. Most celebrities become famous. Very few become beloved, and almost none become internet legends. Keanu Reeves somehow became all three. What's fascinating is that it didn't happen because of a movie. It didn't happen because of an award, and it didn't happen because of a publicity campaign. It happened because people started noticing something unusual. Keanu Reeves seemed normal. That might not sound impressive, but in Hollywood it stands out a lot because celebrity culture often feels distant. Private jets, luxury mansions, exclusive events, constant attention. Over time, many stars begin feeling disconnected from ordinary life. Keanu never seemed that way, and the internet noticed. One of the most famous examples happened when photos surfaced showing Keanu riding public transportation. No special treatment, no entourage, no attempt to attract attention. Just Keanu sitting quietly like everyone else. The image spread across the internet. Millions of people saw it, and millions of people had the same reaction. Wait, that's Keanu Reeves. People expected a superstar. Instead, they saw someone who looked completely comfortable being ordinary. That moment became symbolic, not because riding the subway is extraordinary. Because for someone with his level of fame, it felt unexpected, and it wasn't the only story. Over the years, more stories appeared. Stories from fans, stories from coworkers. Stories from crew members, stories from strangers. Many of them shared a similar theme: respect. People described him as approachable, polite, patient, grateful, and perhaps most importantly, genuine. That's a word that kept appearing, genuine. In a world where almost everything feels carefully managed, authenticity becomes valuable. People crave it, and Keanu seemed to have it. Whether he was speaking during interviews or interacting with fans, he rarely came across as someone trying to impress people. He simply acted like himself. And ironically, that's what impressed people the most. Then social media amplified everything. Every wholesome interaction spread faster than ever. Every positive story reached millions of people. Every kind gesture became another reason people admired him. Before long, Keanu Reeves had become something rare, a celebrity almost everyone agreed on. Think about how unusual that is. The internet argues about everything: movies, politics, sports, music. Almost nothing escapes criticism, yet somehow Keanu managed to unite people. That doesn't mean everyone loved every movie he made. It means people respected the person, and that distinction matters, because careers rise and fall. Public respect lasts longer. One reason people connected with Keanu was because he never pretended to be perfect. He never tried presenting himself as a superhero. He never claimed to have all the answers. He never acted like he was above anyone else. Instead, he often appeared thoughtful, quiet, reflective, human, and that's a powerful combination. Especially in an age where many public figures feel larger than life, Keanu felt real. Then came another major factor: John Wick. Most actors are lucky to have one iconic role. Keanu got another. And not just another role, another cultural phenomenon. When the first John Wick film released in 2014, expectations were relatively modest. Nobody expected it to become one of the biggest action franchises of the modern era, but audiences loved it. The action felt fresh. The character felt compelling. And Keanu Reeves once again became the center of a global phenomenon. What's remarkable is what happened next. His popularity didn't just return, it exploded. A completely new generation discovered him. Many younger fans had never experienced the Matrix era. For them, Keanu was John Wick. For older audiences, he was both. The result was something incredibly rare: multiple generations becoming fans of the same actor at the same time. That almost never happens. Most stars belong to a specific era. Keanu somehow belonged to several, and with every new interview, every behind-the-scenes video, and every fan interaction, his reputation kept growing. People weren't just admiring an actor anymore. They were admiring a person who seemed to remain humble despite decades of success. a person who seemed grateful despite experiencing immense loss. A person who never appeared interested in treating others as less important. The internet loves stories, especially stories about people who restore faith in humanity. Keanu Reeves became one of those stories, not because he was perfect, not because he never made mistakes, because he reminded people that kindness still exists. And that's something many people desperately want to believe, but here's the interesting part. The internet's version of Keanu Reeves isn't the complete story. No public image ever is. Because behind every legend is a real human being, a real person with flaws, a real person with struggles, a real person with complicated emotions. And that's where we arrive at the most important question of all. Who is Keanu Reeves beyond the internet stories, beyond the memes, beyond the reputation, beyond the legend? Because the real reason people love Keanu Reeves goes much deeper than a few viral moments. And once you understand it, everything starts making sense. So after everything we've discussed, the childhood, the struggles, the success, the tragedies, the internet obsession, we're finally left with one question. Why does everyone love Keanu Reeves? The answer isn't the Matrix. It's not John Wick, and it's not because he has a reputation for being nice. The real answer is much deeper. People love Keanu Reeves because he represents something that's becoming increasingly rare. Grace, not perfection. Grace. There's a difference, because perfection doesn't exist. Every human being has flaws. Every human being makes mistakes. Every human being struggles. Keanu Reeves is no exception, but what people admire is the way he carries himself through those struggles. Think about it. Most people become kinder when life is easy. Keanu remained kind when life became difficult. That's much harder. Success didn't make him arrogant. Pain didn't make him bitter. Fame didn't make him disconnected. And that combination is incredibly rare. The world is full of successful people. The world is full of talented people. The world is full of famous people. But people rarely fall in love with someone because they're successful. They fall in love with someone because of who they appear to be. And Keanu appears to be someone who never forgot what it feels like to struggle. That's powerful, especially today, because modern culture often rewards the loudest voices, the biggest egos, the most controversial personalities. Keanu built his reputation differently, quietly, without forcing it, without demanding attention, without constantly reminding people how great he was. Instead, people reached their own conclusions, and those conclusions kept repeating. He's humble, he's respectful, he's genuine, he's kind. When thousands of people say similar things about someone over multiple decades, it becomes difficult to ignore. That's why Keanu's reputation feels different. It wasn't created overnight. It was earned year after year, interaction after interaction, movie after movie, moment after moment, and perhaps that's the most impressive part of all. Because maintaining a positive reputation for a month is easy, maintaining it for 40 years is almost impossible, yet somehow Keanu managed it. Of course, the internet has turned him into something larger than life, almost a myth, almost a symbol. Sometimes people speak about him as if he's perfect, and that's probably unfair. Nobody should have to live up to that standard, not even Keanu Reeves, because at the end of the day, he's still human. He still has bad days. He still has struggles. He still has moments nobody else sees, and maybe that's exactly why people connect with him, not because he's flawless, because he isn't. People connect with him because despite everything he's experienced, the fame, the heartbreak, the pressure, the expectations, he still appears to value the same things: respect, kindness, gratitude, human connection. Those values never go out of style, and perhaps they never will. That's why younger audiences love him. That's why older audiences respect him. That's why every generation seems to discover him again. The movies help, the iconic characters help, but they're not the main reason. The main reason is much simpler. People trust him. Not in the way they trust a friend, in the way they trust someone's character. And in today's world, that's one of the hardest things to earn. When people talk about Keanu Reeves years from now, they'll talk about The Matrix. They'll talk about John Wick. They'll talk about his incredible career. But more importantly, they'll talk about the person, because careers create fans, character creates respect, and respect lasts longer. That's the difference. Hollywood has produced bigger stars. Hollywood has produced richer stars. Hollywood has produced more controversial stars, but very few became as universally respected as Keanu Reeves, and that's why his story matters. Not because he became famous, because he showed people that fame doesn't have to change who you are. You can experience success without losing humility. You can experience pain without losing compassion. You can experience attention without losing yourself. Keanu Reeves became proof of that. So why does everyone love Keanu Reeves? Because he reminds people of the kind of person they hope still exists. Someone successful but humble. Someone famous but grounded. Someone respected but kind. Whether that image is completely accurate or not almost doesn't matter anymore, because the impact is real, the inspiration is real, the admiration is real. And after decades in the spotlight, that's an achievement far greater than any box office record. Keanu Reeves didn't become one of the most loved celebrities in the world because he tried to. He became one because people looked at his life, looked at his actions, and decided for themselves that this was someone worth respecting, and in Hollywood. That might be the rarest achievement of all. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more deep dives into the people audiences love, hate, and never forget. Because sometimes the most fascinating stories aren't about superheroes. Sometimes they're about the people who remind us how to stay human.